Tensions between the U.S. and North Korea are already high over Pyongyang's nuclear ambitions. It could now escalate even further over the treatment of Ohio native Otto Warmbier. He's the college student who was arrested during a trip to North Korea and confined for more than 15 months. He returned to his family this week in a persistent vegetative state, sparking outrage here about his treatment. How should the U.S. respond to this heartbreaking situation? Let's bring in Chang, East Asia expert and author of Nuclear Showdown, North Korea Takes on the World. Gordon, first of all, thank you for joining us. Second of all, your reaction to the news this week and how you think the United States should respond. I mean, you don't have to be a parent to look at this story and find it gut-wrenching, really.
Yeah, this is important because it's not just Americans being detained by North Korea. This is also has implications for Americans being detained by other hardline regimes, for instance, Iran. And so the United States needs to impose costs on the North Koreans. And that means Secretary Tillerson, Secretary of State, needs to be, I think, tougher in his public comments on all of this, largely because we need to deal with this issue. We need to protect Americans whenever they travel abroad, and we can't let these countries think that they can harm Americans, put them into vegetative states, brutalize them, kill them, and not face a cost.
You had said, and I implied, that the U.S. really has no diplomatic relations with North Korea, and that also involves other countries. So basically, when he was first imprisoned, was the United States, were their hands tied? Is there anything that could have been done differently?
Well, looking back at this, I think most people now believe that the Obama administration should have done something more. Their approach has really been not to create in the minds of the North Koreans that Otto Warmbier and others are bargaining chips. And so their approach was not irrational. But nonetheless, it was basically the parents going to Tucker Carlson that got Otto Warmbier released. And so we know that pressure works, and we need to understand that. And we have a lot of avenues that we can apply pressure on the North Koreans, even though we don't have diplomatic relations with them.
As far as a little bit of insight of what goes on in the Hermit Kingdom, certainly there's so much that is a mystery. That being said, if he suffered life-threatening injuries up to 15 months ago, what is in it for North Korea to keep him alive?
Well, I thought that they were probably just trying to hope that over time that he would come out of the coma. Because they did not want this story. Because now, we're talking about harm to an American, and we're talking about permanent injury in all probability. So I think that they were just trying, hoping that he would get better. And now it's very important that his parents force the issue, right, along with Tucker Carlson's pressure on this.
You had said, this is not unconnected to, obviously, what's going on with their nuclear development. What can the United States do going forward? And also, I had asked you this earlier, do you think it needs to involve China?
Well, it obviously needs to involve China. And the reason is that China keeps North Korea going. If China wanted to, within weeks, it could disarm North Korea. It could have gotten Otto Warmbier released early. Of course, they didn't want to do that. And so the United States, we have sanctions on North Korea, but they're not as tough as the sanctions we had on Iran, and we're not enforcing them. So there's all sorts of things that we can do. So, for instance, instead of just a travel advisory on North Korea, it should be a travel ban. No tour group should be allowed to operate in the United States or to use dollars. We should put North Korea back on the list of state sponsors of terrorism. There's all sorts of things that we can do to put pressure on North Korea and to convince other states that they cannot harm Americans.
All right, Chang, thank you so much for joining us. We very much appreciate it, and obviously our thoughts and prayers are with the Warmbier family. Thank you. We appreciate it.